All right. Okay. So let's chat a little bit about the SDLC, which is the software development life cycle. Again, a technique, one of techniques to deal with the chaos. Right. This I guess this course is all about dealing with chaos, on how is it that we are organize ourselves to deal with the process of developing software. Okay, that software has a beginning, it goes through a process, right? It evolves over time, right? And at some time it'll be retired, right? So it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and hopefully, and in that process we are providing good quality software, and since our industry is still in its infancy, as opposed to perhaps other industries that have been around for hundreds of years, some of them thousands of years. They might have developed several best practices, and they have developed a lot of domain knowledge. And we are still trying to identify what are the best processes for delivering good software, right? And how do we measure the quality of software? So let's first identify, who are the participants when we are developing software. For certainly is one of the participants is the client, right? And the client has their own view on what should happen, right? They have their own biases, they have their own interests, they have their own domain knowledge, and we do as well. We have our biases, right? We have our own concerns and our own domain knowledge. And depending on our worlds, we control certain things, right? We can control what the technology stack that we're going to be using, right? What particular methodology we're going to use to organize ourselves, right? The actual team members that are going to participate, we control those things, right? Whereas the business might control, how much money are they willing to invest, and what kind of resources are they willing to dedicate to this effort, right? The time and the cost, and the things that they want to build, what kind of functionalities and they want on a particular system, right? And the process is to somehow align, right, these two competing, oftentimes competing points of view on the same world, right? Each one has its own kind of distortion field of their own point of view. So we need to align our way towards the same goal. Obviously, because we are dealing with a fairly complex system that we can't just go off on our own and come back a couple months later and have it all done. Typically, it involves lots and lots of folks. There's a lot of opportunities for folks to just misrepresent inadvertently what it is that we are all doing. Communication and we sometimes think that that things are implied or obvious, right? And it's not the case, right? We need to make sure that we formally document and explicitly tell everyone. Nobody can read anybody's mind, right? And yes, everything is moving, right? We tend to think that things were the way we look at the world. We always thought that the world was always this way, right? We oftentimes fail that we are just a bleep in a much larger story. Yes, that there's a lot of evolution that happened earlier that got us to this point, and there's certainly going to be much more evolution even after we're gone, right? And we have to appreciate our small little effort when we participate in this larger endeavor, and so there's teams. They come together, they operate, they work together, and they disband. Right? It might be that you don't that person you worked very well for the last 3-6 months, you never get to work with them anymore, and teams come and go. People come, they grow, and eventually they move on, and things that used to work very well in a previous team might not work very well in the next team, right? Maybe you don't have the right chemistry, you don't have the right skill set, and it's just a fact of projects, of dealing with projects, right? And somebody's responsible for this, right? There's a manager who is responsible for the fact that you didn't come today, and somebody just quit, and now I don't have a front-end developer, and now my QA developer changed their teams, right? And somebody just had a baby, and it's just so many things that are going around, and the client has changed their mind again, right? And now they wanted to do it this way, now they wanted to do it. So everything is in motion. We have to appreciate the fact of that process, right? And just again, I'll repeat this again. It's just trying to deal with the madness, right? The chaos of all of it. But once you buy into the fact that this is chaotic, right? Then you should feel comforted that it is the normal, right? That things are moving, and we are just trying to hold it together. And we are all adults, and we are trying, and we're all doing our best to provide a good piece of software. Again, oftentimes we won't have the privilege of getting to start working on something brand new, right? It's very seldom that we get that great opportunity that we are starting from brand new. There was not even a database. There's not even anything. We get a chance to build everything from scratch, and oftentimes it'll be that you'll be working on some legacy system that somebody already wrote, and that it has since gone into maintenance, right? Where there's new requirements that are coming in, or there's bugs coming from the field that need to be fixed, right? That and you're dealing with end users that are yelling at you why this is not working the way, right? So there's a lot of and we just have to make sure that we understand and we appreciate that we are one part of a larger thing. Okay, and again, it's that we are just one cog, right, in this larger process, right? With the hope that at the end of the day, right, somebody looking from outside, right, looks at the process and says, "Ooh, it feels good. I enjoy the process. I enjoy coming to work and participating with my teammates and understanding that we are all trying to steer this humongous ship, right? And we just have a little rudder, right? And this ship has its own inertia, right? We want to make sure that it is going in the right direction." Right. So at the end of the day, we would love to hear that our pieces of software has these good qualities, that it's efficient, that it's reusable, that folks look at this and says, "Ooh, this is easier to maintain. It's very well documented. That somebody can just pick up my piece of software and just run with it, and it's self-explanatory. And that what I coded, that is the documentation. It's so well understood. My variables make sense. They're not very cryptic, and I can just follow along and understand what you just wrote. That it's testable. That you have ways that you can press a button and it will run through unit tests and integration tests. That will give you some level of confidence that that piece of software does what it was supposed to do, right? That some measurement of confidence that is indeed the case. That the deployment and the whole process of writing code and then deploying it through the various stages into QA, into staging, into production. That there's a very well defined process that you're not staying up all night and weekends trying to deploy something over the weekend so that Monday we are actually live, right? That we have automated systems to do this for us. So the software, all these concerns of the way we actually develop software falls in the umbrella of the software development life cycle, right? And it's something that managers and employers they're very concerned, right? When they're hiring, that I'm going to hire someone. I have a process in house, and I want to make sure that whoever I'm hiring is going to fit in, right, in this larger process. That they're not coming here to. Hopefully they'll come here to maybe give better ideas and how the process might be improved, but not come in here and just throw everything away and I'll just do it my way, right? That they're familiar with at least the aspects and the need for a software development lifecycle. That software has its life, and that they're willing to participate and maybe make the process even better, right? But first, the fact that they need to appreciate the need for a process in the first place. Okay, so yeah, so managers and hiring managers, they're always very concerned that folks are familiar with this. Once in a while, we'll want a genius, right, that comes here and just does a huge upheaval and completely, just turns our point of view and says, oh, I never saw it that way. Maybe what kind of like Einstein came and just completely, was an upheaval on how to reinterpret all our initial understanding of physics. From time to time, yes, you need a genius come here and just shake everything up. But overall, typically we want, very progressive, iterations and evolutions as opposed to maybe a revolution, right? Or at least, if I'm going to revolutionize something, make sure that I understand why I'm doing it, right? That I understand the process. I know what I'm losing if I try to go elsewhere. So some key elements of any development life cycle is that the life cycle itself is feasible, meaning it can be actually implemented. That it's not pie in the sky. That we can actually have techniques and technology and methodologies that we can actually put it in practice. That has perhaps a well-defined and accepted methodology and set of specifications that we have. That there's an architectural design. That there's several stages of the software that goes through the life cycle of identifying whether a piece of software actually can be built, right? That it's feasible, that we can actually build it, perhaps within the constraints of the technology, within the constraints of time, within the constraints of money and cost, right? That there is a very well-defined specification and requirements that specifies what it is that indeed we're building, that there's an architecture and there's a design for that piece of software. There's also the actual process of building this, right? The development, the day-to-day creation of classes and functions and folders and all the artifacts, right? HTML and CSS that go with developing the piece of software. There's a validation process that validates that what you are actually building meets the original requirements that were captured in the previous first or second steps of the requirements phase, and then it goes into a stage that it gets delivered, it gets deployed, and it goes into actual use in production, and folks start to actually use it and identifying some mistakes, some errors, some bugs that we then need to fix, right? So it goes into the maintenance stage and evolution of that process. So the difficulty is looking at these 6 generic steps and actually making it happen. So that's very, very difficult, and how to execute it. And that's where project management comes in. All right, so let's leave it here. We'll come back on Thursday. Hopefully the client will be here with where you can ask questions, and they'll have a presentation. It'll probably take about maybe an hour or so, if they come, I hope. And be ready to jot down requirements, perhaps. In your teams, decide that somebody's going to be scribing, or all of you are going to be scribing, and try to identify what are functional requirements, what are non-functional requirements, what are some of the constraints. So be ready on Thursday. All right? Awesome. Thank you.